Dr. Rapaport, good morning.
Good morning, John. Beautiful day today.
It's quit raining and we're survived. We didn't have to build an ark. It's wonderful.
Well, I could only find one animal of all species. I couldn't find two.
Oh, Lord. So the title of this video is we wish you could say more. And I would like to preface this with our viewers a little bit of commentary. I have as politely shushed you a couple of times when you start going, and I would like to just add a little perspective to that, because one of the intent of this channel is to bring information to people to help them with this very difficult time in their life, give them tips for surviving it, and the most important thing is that people get this information and can have some modicum of comfort and consultation during this. And what we don't want is to be taken down by a pharmaceutical company putting a protest together or contacting YouTube and all that. So we're very cognizant of that. And it's not that we don't want to say all these things. It's just the survivability of the channel is really paramount. Now, having said that, you made a comment to me one time prior to us doing this, and it quite frankly shocked me, because all the things that we're not saying here, you are saying on YouTube, on Facebook and in private emails and all that, and that's great, and we encourage everybody to reach out and talk to you about that. But you made a comment in private to me one time that absolutely just shocked me, and I'd like to recall it with you now. We were talking, and I said, Dr. Rapaport, you're running around criticizing these pharmaceutical companies. You're going to get sued. Do you remember what your response was?
I don't care, because I have the data. I can back it up with strength. No one has written an article belittling all of the evidence that I presented. No one. No one has challenged me on anything, meaning they're afraid, there is no challenge, or I'm perfectly accurate. So go sue me. It's not just the drug companies, it's the physicians who have used all of these patients as guinea pigs, testing them on products that have never shown really much promise. But the pharmaceutical companies have wangled their way in with giant fees to these physicians in large institutions in America to do the studies, and the studies show very, very, very little evidence of any benefit versus a placebo.
So you're willing to get dragged into court and be raked over the coals and spend money on an attorney and do all that, right?
Yeah, it might be fun. We're having fun doing this. One cured patient is worth everything like this. It's worth it. I don't care. And I've had 6,500 of them, so I'm riding high. It's okay, no problem. You want to invite people to sue? Well, it can be aggravating, but I just want to cure these patients, and they cannot belittle the evidence that I have.
That is, I want to repeat that 10 times, but it's just a stunning comment of you, I guess, placing your flag in the ground. That is something else.
It surely has been done in medicine before. I'm not a guiding light, or I just followed what I saw, the evidence I participated in gathering, and the cure of the patients. And I'm trying to tell the others who are so down and so depressed and many suicidal to not be that way. You'll be cured. But there are so many of them out there, and there's so many physicians who are not seeing the light or don't care to, and there are 4 or 5 new drugs having been approved by the FDA, and that's what I'd like to get into today. Scalawags, scoundrels that have allowed this to go on. both in the pharmaceutical companies and the FDA.
So you have published many papers, and you've written one more recently that has not been published, and we touched upon that. Are you not left to believe that the reason it's not being published is that these journals are beholden to the pharmaceutical companies? I mean, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but that's my gut reaction.
Well, it's very easy to think conspiracy. It's very easy to get a little paranoid. The reality could have a semblance of truth to what you say. There surely is big profits involved when the drug companies, and I said there are 4 or 5 new medications for bad eczema, which is not bad eczema, but it's steroid addiction. They're on the 6 o'clock news. There must be $1 million spots every night. And as 1 or 2 or 3 new ones come on the TV, the old one, Dupixent, ups the ante and starts advertising more.
Well, it's more competition, right?
It's competition. They're not going to have their market taken away from them. And all they show are a couple pretty young girls, always young girls, no rash, no problem. And they say something like, itch is better. That's all they can say, because that's all the drug study demonstrated in and published in august medical journals. That's all they said for Dupixent. It helped sleep a little bit. It helped a little bit of itch. Well, those are very subjective comments, not objectively looked upon with numbers or a system. And it's published. And that's all they can say in their advertisements. And that's all they do say. And that's not enough. That's not the way drugs were approved in the past 40 years ago. They had to have really great evidence that it worked better than the competitor that was curing people, not placebos especially. When they were unwilling to match against the competitor, they went against placebo because you can show better results. Well, today it's not only with placebo as your other set of patients, it's also that steroids are still being used in many of the drug studies that have been presented. I have all the data here. I would like to get into that and cite the names with the caveat to everybody who's listening. Please, if your new doctor says, let's try this new drug, be very wary. The data does not borne out that it's of any value.
Well, but so why do we need to cite the names? Isn't that the end of the conversation? What you just said, isn't that all you need to know? Someone is suffering?
Well, they come into the new doctor, or they go to their old doctor, who with aplomb says, we have a new drug out there. New drug. Oh my God, it must be good because it's new. Whoa. When it was 40 years ago, when it was new, yes. Today, everything slips under the door.
But that's a blanket statement. I think that's true, by the way. I believe it to be true. We don't need to get into names. It's just anything they want to inject in you or give you a pill to make your what we perceive as eczema go away is not viable when you're going through topical steroid withdrawal, right?
But you must. A couple of comments. Number one, when your doctor tells you that you have a lifelong disease, that you're going to need to be on this new drug or another new drug for the rest of your life, which is false, absolutely false. The patients believe that. So, the comments I've gotten back from several people recently and with the advent of these new drugs on the marketplace, how are you doing? Oh, I'm a little better. Well, what do you mean a little better? I think I'm itching less. Oh, really? How much did it cost you to itch a little less? Thousands of dollars? Oh, your insurance paid? Well, I must be paying that premium. And you're paying the premium. $50,000, $70,000 a year for this new drug that doesn't do very much? That's very inappropriate. And you're being solidified in that comment by the doctor saying, see, I told you, you're doing a little bit better. You're sleeping a little bit better. You used to get up 3 times a night. You're only getting up twice a night now. Oh, really? That's a good drug that does that? No. A good drug stops you from getting up at night, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And coupled with that, I'll throw it in right now, and we can elaborate later. I have given cyclosporin, not a new drug, been around for 30 years, used in the transplant patients, used in dermatology for several diagnoses and other areas of medicine. I have given it to 850 to 900 patients who were basket cases, and all of them stayed on the drug, never had to stop it. It was not a problem, and they were cured, or they're still on therapy.
Well, they cured through their natural progression of going through withdrawal, correct? I mean, that's basically what...
They absolutely were withdrawal.
Yeah.
This did not shorten the course. That's the sad part that I can explain to patients all the time. No matter what method we use, the cessation of the steroids is the answer, and I can help you through this with support, medications, or cyclosporin. None of the other big gun drugs, not the new ones, the old ones, methotrexate, Cellcept, Imuran, none of them work. They've all been tried.
You use it. You're killing me.
And profits are made, and patients are lured in to trying the next new drug, and they stay miserable. And that's not fair. Not fair to them.
Well, and the other thing is, again, back to this definition, it's topical steroid withdrawal, not eczema, right? What are these physicians treating?
Well, here's my next anecdote. I was going to finish with this, and this is appalling. Happened just recently, last few weeks. I had been taking care of a patient not too far away who had come into the office and continued with telemedicine. Had been using steroids for about 40 years.
How many years?
About 40. She's
40.
40. She's in her 50s. Absolutely miserable. Started her on cyclosporin about 2.5 years ago. Did miraculously well. Perfect. Functioned. Lived. Still only 2 years. When I say 3 to 5 years, or a little longer that it takes to cure you, that's still only halfway. Something went awry about 3-4 months ago. Not sure why. I had no explanation. She started getting more symptomatic and more red patches. Got a little hesitant about the cyclosporin. And not annoyed with me, not angry, not bothered in any way, but her family pressured her to see a dermatologist in her area in California. This dermatologist, in his wisdom, how about unwisdom, tells her that you cannot stay on cyclosporin more than a year. That was either the drug company told him that, or he read it somewhere, and it's called balderdash. It's called garbage talk. The transplant people were on it for 15, 20 years. Patients with colitis, arthritis, other derm problems have been on for several years, no problem. My patients have been on 2 to 4 years, no problem. No side effects, never had to stop anybody. So they're lying to the patient with the intent, and that's why I'm suspicious this drug company intervention with lies, telling him that just stop the cyclosporin, tell them that it's not a good drug for long term, and we'll start her on Dupixent. So this unwise physician stops the cyclosporin, starts Dupixent, and gives her 60 milligrams of prednisone orally for 3 months.
Oh, Lord.
To tide her through, to stabilize her.
Remind us all what prednisone is.
She went back to 0 stage. A phone call came into me.
Tell us what prednisone is.
Oh, prednisone is oral steroids.
Okay.
So this is called topical steroid addiction. Well, every other steroid is feeding the fire. Don't you understand that? Eye drops, asthma inhalers, oral is the atomic bomb. So I get a phone call from her about 2 weeks ago, right before the Christmas holiday. Her doctor's going on vacation. She's panicking. She's in a tapering dose of the steroids after about 3 months. She's down to about 10 milligrams, 5 milligrams a day. Oral. And she's beginning to break out. She's beginning to get symptomatic. The steroids, and she's saying, I don't think the Dupixent is working. I said, it's been the steroids that made you feel better. Now you're going to flare. Don't you understand? Didn't this doctor understand what he has done to you?
So this is important contextually for people who are lying in bed right now, miserable, wondering if they should be doing more, and are getting bombarded by their family members that are saying, I'm seeing all these television commercials, why aren't you doing this? So this reinforces
Oh, for sure.
that mindset,
and
right?
There have been a couple internets the last 10 days, two from across the country, where the family pressured them to go to this new dermatologist to go back on steroids. And there was a fight, there was a difficulty, they ran it past me, and they said they would not do it, though they were getting close to giving in to the pressure from their family. Two patients. So it's like, well, all I need is a little bit more opioid, another amphetamine, and I think I'll be okay because I can fight anything. No, you're addicted. You can't do anything with steroids, ever. They don't understand that. And the doctors cannot fathom that concept.
Well, you made a comment that I can't let go, and that is oral steroids. You mentioned inhalers. That's
eye drops.
That's eye drops. That's a question that comes up, right? Is it just the application of topical steroids that gets me addicted, or is it other things?
I've been asked by cured patients or those who were under my care and still either on cyclosporin or support medicines, they're going to have eye surgery. And the typical, with everything in medicine, the ophthalmologists all give steroid eye drops because there's inflammation, there's a little bit of swelling, and their professors and the professors before them said use steroids. It stops that from happening. So they're asking me, is it safe? And I say, I don't like the idea, but I'm surely not going to tamper with a tried and true or at least long-lasting method that has been around. I don't have a fight with the ophthalmologist. Your eyes are involved here. The worst, you might have a little bit of a flare. So we'll handle that. Don't worry about it. It's only eye drops. I don't like it. You're not going to blow. Don't worry about it, Mr. and Mrs. Patient. But I don't want you to go through hell. Your eyes will get red. Your eyes will get scaly. We'll handle it. The asthma inhaler, you're addicted to the asthma inhaler. You got to get off that oral. Why are you getting oral? What? Getting a shot in your back because you have some low back pain? Let them treat it otherwise. There are other methods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But steroids are the go-to for so many areas in medicine. It's the Band-Aid, a giant Band-Aid that often lasts 2 days, but it's still done.
I saw in one of the comments, somebody brought up that they were using a steroidal nasal spray. I'd never even heard of such a thing.
Oh yeah, I forgot that one. There's for asthma, deeper inhaler. They breathe it in, it affects the bronchi.
This was nasal.
And then they have stuffed noses, sinusitis. They have difficulty breathing, and they get addicted to the nose drops. Most nose drops do not have steroids. They get addicted to the chemical. Usually it's Afrin that they use. They got to stop it. Some nose drops have steroids in them, Nasonex, et cetera, et cetera. So they're addicted to the chemical in nose drops that helps the sinuses, and they're addicted to the steroid also.
And that addiction can manifest itself with a topical
Yeah, it
problem.
flares them. It stops them from repairing totally. It pushes them back from advancing towards cure. It's a no nonsense, no steroid approach towards curing this problem. When they're addicted, it's called addiction. You cannot cure the opioid or the amphetamine or the alcoholic by giving them just a little bit. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it's the same here. Different mechanism, not the brain, the vessels of the skin. We've gone into that several times. But it's called addiction.
But it's good. And that brings up a good reminder that if you're new to topical steroid withdrawal, or you're a family member of topical steroid withdrawal, it doesn't hurt to go back to the beginning and watch episode 1 all the way through, which is now episode 7, if for nothing more than to offer some reassurance and some comfort that, they're going to be cured?
Well, you bring up a very good point, and I think normal human beings, if you flood them with too many facts initially, and these new patients in the office, retainers, I'll spend half hour, 45 minutes longer with tons of data and information to help them hold their hand. There will be a phone call, 3 days later or 4 days later, asking the same question because they forgot what I had said. So it takes time for that flood of information to finally penetrate and work on their brain, and they understand fully how simple this is. Addiction causes chronic rash, causes all of your symptoms. The therapy is stop the addictive medication. It's called steroids.
I think, yes, it takes some time to sink in, but I also think it just feels so good to hear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
you know what I mean?
I didn't. You're right. I didn't finish the next sentence saying, so I don't mind being repetitive and redundant because it appears necessary for us to go over some very important facts again and again and again. It's okay. It's okay. I don't feel that I'm being silly or why am I repeating that? No, it's very important. There's many out there who just didn't get it the first time.
It just can't be understated, though. White-haired guy, white jacket, professor at UCLA, looking you in the eye and saying, "You're gonna be fine. You're just gonna be fine."
Be cured. My annoyance, anger, is twofold. The pharmaceutical companies, either on their own whims or pressured by the professors out there, that eczema is bad when it's into the adult life, and they have pursued new drugs, up to about 20 in the last 10 years. And 4 or 5 or 6, I'm lost count, have been approved by the FDA. And I think we should get into the FDA also. The data was lacking. The reason I bring it up, because the comments in their advertisements are that it almost clear skin. What's almost mean? Clear or almost clear skin, meaningful itch relief. What does meaningful mean? That's not a number, but that's in the advertisement. That's all they can say. This one, for the third drug, it neutralizes IL-13, doesn't say anything about symptoms. What the doctor looks at that. Most doctors don't even know what IL-13 is. But what is it doing for the patients? Nothing. And then the FDA has approved the drug. I'll give you the names.
No, don't. It's just any drug for eczema, right? It's just
for
any
bad eczema.
Yeah, right. It's just that it's a category.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I would add is that it's not just you. Look at the comments in the now 6 videos that we've posted. There are numerous people that are chiming in and saying, yeah, I was on XYZ and, you know, my eyes got inflamed. I can tell you that.
That happened. That's right. Oh, I was a little bit better. The doctor said you got to do it for a year.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that amounted to about $50,000 to the drug company's coffers. You know, it's disgusting. It really is.
Well, and I wanted to get to this in a roundabout way. You know, you've talked about the paper, and we've gone through that. It's going to be up on the website very soon. But really, and I said this to you privately, it's rehashing old ground. You've published in numerous medical journals all over the world, and we discussed it, and you've taken a different approach. And that approach is you have assembled what I would call an editorial team that's going to go after consumer-oriented media, all the names you could imagine, prevention, you know, not that anything's happening in prevention, but just the wellness and household magazines with articles that you're financing to have written and be distributed, so that the patient goes into the doctor and says, I want this or I don't want that, and I want to help direct my own care, being armed with the information that you're leading them to.
I'm having a good time. I have surely made some inroads. There are doctors out there who understand, and I'm getting some feedback. They're telling the patients. Cured more and more patients. There's been a motherload of new ones on the internet asking for my advice in the last 6 months, and the last 3 months since we started these conversations. I called UCLA's English department to help me write a paper about a year and a half ago. All of my experience, collating all the information for the finale of my career to stop this from being a problem outside. So, and again, this is not just in medicine. I called the English department for a grad student to help, who I would pay for their time. There were 30 letters that I sent out, 30 emails. I got 1 response. And this young lady, just sharper than all get out.
PhD candidate, correct?
PhD candidate. Interviewed her, talked with her, charming, delightful, smart. I worked with her for the last year and a half. We submitted to 4 journals. They're all rejected. Perfectly wonderful paper, explains everything. And the rejection, as your opening salvo, is it because the drug companies advertise in their journals, and this was belittling the new drugs, mostly. Could well be the answer. And this young lady, I'm sure that the public now knows, reading the literature from the media in America, that there was a strike at the UC, the University of California system, in December, late November, December. And she was a mover and shaker in this strike. This little, charming, smart, 24-year-old, poet, writer. And she just is avant-garde. And the last meeting we had 10 days ago, it dawned on me that the lay literature might be the route to go. We tried with the movie, we tried with the conversations, but it might need another thrust, and these ubiquitous pamphlets, journals, lay publications are read by millions upon millions of people who might be influenced and who will influence their doctors. And I look upon it as an avalanche of input from the lay public changing this problem. I've done all I can scientifically in the journals. I handle rejection okay, but don't like it. But this approach excites me, and that maybe indeed this is the way to go. I'm sure there are other things in the world. I'm not so sure that mothers against drunk driving MAD was not started against the authorities or discussing this problem with the authorities, and then they went public, and that's probably how it won the day. There are other situations like this where the country at large, the world at large, is very powerful if they're appealed to in the proper way. And I think this is I know this is the approach we're going to take.
Well, I mean, I think it's really three legs of a stool, right? We've got the movie as one leg. The movie's titled Skin on Fire. We'll leave a link in the description. And it really is a primer for the whole concept, basically. The second leg of the stool are these interviews, and you're establishing a personal legacy and doing all this. Reference for sufferers and family members. And then the third leg of the stool will be the public campaign in printed literature of the mom who's got a kid that's got diaper rash and is told to put topical steroids on, right? We want to...
And it gets worse and worse, and
right.
They get stronger and stronger steroids. Yeah.
We want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
The other thing I would like to tangentially add is that you are personally responding on the message forum, and you're referring to your telemedicine. And I would like to add, because you're certainly not going to say it, you are charging a nominal fee for your involvement in your supervisory activities with that person's doctor. But I would also like to add, and you and I didn't discuss this at hand, but I know some of the numbers. All those dollars are going back into this campaign. We're not making car payments with this money. It's all going for the greater cause of perpetuating the message.
I never get into this, but I have spent in the six figures on this of my own money in 40 years. And I felt that more free time, because the deluge has been outrageous, worse than the rains we've just had in California. I can't answer every inquiry. And I felt that a minimal charge would be accepted and appropriate. People have insurance. We're not taking insurance, and they're reluctant to, be perfectly on board. But I'm very busy with the ones who are. It's sad that maybe they'll buy a new telephone or they'll get a new car, but they won't take care of themselves. Maybe paying a doctor is off the scale.
But it's going a little bit bigger than that, though, because not only do they take care of themselves, they're funding your campaign, basically. That's the second part of it, correct?
Okay, yeah. Most people think about themselves first.
Well, of course, but we get notes all the time in all the videos. What can I do? What can I do? Well, I'll say one thing. You can, in addition, of course, like and sharing and subscribing, post. There are all these TSW, topical steroid withdrawal channels and people talking about it, and none of them mention some of the basic things that we're talking about.
Well, they're very involved with themselves.
Well, I get it.
Their donations, et cetera, et cetera.
I get it.
And it's sad because there's lots of personal woes and woe is me and the horrors I've gone through, please help me. But they're talking to the wind. There are very specific ways of being helped by a physician who knows what they're doing. If I may, and I don't want them off the hook.
I'm going to blow my brains out if you start.
I'm going to get involved with the FDA.
Okay.
You have
the sheet. The title of the article is, it was in the Defender, Children's Health Defense News and Views. It's called the Defender. And this is an article from 12/6/22. How Bill Gates and other private interests use legal loopholes to corrupt the FDA. Millions trust the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to regulate big food and big pharma without realizing that Bill Gates and other members of the private sector are pulling the strings behind the scenes.
If I may, I thought maybe you would read it, but let me just read
I will read it if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me show you what tickled my fancy. Why don't you, story at a glance, just these few here, and that'll give our listeners, viewers, a good idea of the chicanery that is going on. And it is outlandish. Now, maybe therein lies an avenue for this population that watches us to write to the FDA and to ask them, what is going on? Why are you doing this? Why are you approving medications that show very, very, very little good response? Are you being influenced by monies that are coupled with big pharmacies?
What are they going to say? Yeah, we are. Thanks for letting us know. I mean...
No, but that's not appropriate.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
Terrible. Would you mind reading
No,
it?
this is written by a guy named Dr. Joseph Mercola, and he's got some bullet points. While the U.S. Food and Drug Administration does not accept corporate money, it does receive money funneled via nonprofit foundations, which receive money from other nonprofits funded by private investors.
A little bit of under the table, under the transom, under the door, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
A circuitous...
Well, it's being done that way because it's illegal.
A circuitous route.
Yeah.
The Reagan-Udall Foundation is a nonprofit foundation created by Congress in 2007 to support scientific research that is of interest to the FDA. It accepts grants from the government, individual donors, and other nonprofits, even when those nonprofits are created and funded by industry.
Really?
Isn't that curious?
Isn't that curious?
The Reagan-Udall Foundation has received large donation from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She's still in the picture, or is it just now the Bill Foundation?
Not sure.
Are they still in partnership on this deal?
Well, you got $1 billion. You got a lot of room to give.
She's an eligible bachelorette these days.
There's more bullets there, but on the next page you'll see the list of drug companies and the foundations and the amounts of money.
Ellen Siegel, who currently chairs the Reagan-Udall Foundation's board of directors, is also vice president of the Cancer Moonshot Program, funded by the Gates Foundation, and she is on the board of the Parker Institute, which partnered with Inovio, a Gates-funded company that is currently working on a COVID-19 vaccination. According to the rules, no more than 4 of the 14-member board of the Reagan-Udall Foundation are supposed to be representatives of FDA-regulated industries. Yet, in 2017, 9 of the 13-member board had financial ties to the industry at the time of their appointment.
And you know who they are beholden to.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Of course.
Well, don't they swap positions? I mean,
But when you read the journal approvals, the FDA approvals with minimal positive data, it's suspect. And most doctors do not read these journal articles nor look at the details of an advertisement. I do. And it's very suspect. The original articles showed very little good response of the drug that's being tested. And the professors have donated their patients as guinea pigs. And not off the hook is the National Eczema Association, who in this last week sent out a note to subscribers or to donators or to patients. Pfizer is coupling with an institution in New York to do a new drug study on a new drug,
but that's how we're wired as a society, right? Isn't medicine basically now just you're a concierge of drugs? That's what it is, right?
But if the drugs don't work, that's not very good. And if the drugs are hugely expensive, it eats up the funds in all the insurance company monies. Why are we paying $40,000 for Dupixent when it doesn't work? How many millions were spent unnecessarily, inappropriately? How many? How many on the new drugs? I think it's gruesome, outlandish, scandalous. I'll have to look up in the dictionary some more
You're looking for
words.
thesaurus is what
It's sufficient. Okay. Have we planted enough seeds?
We do. We may have to do another one very quick because I've got all these comments I want to go through, but I did want to touch on one. It was from a person that we had some back and forth on topical steroid addiction, topical steroid withdrawal. But when we percolate through down all the messages back and forth, this person is 10 years off of steroids and flaring once a year. Is that something you're familiar with?
Well,
I'd never heard it before.
Yeah, I have to examine the person.
I thought that's
Take
what
a
you were
good
going to say.
history.
Okay.
What they say is a flare, often when I see them or talk to them, is not a flare. When they say they're still suffering, it's a different kind of suffering. They've had thickened skin from scratching or other reasons. So I don't believe anybody unless they're examined properly and a good history is taken. I used to say 30 years ago when the steroids were weak, it's going to take you 1 to 3 years for cure. As the super potent steroids came on the forefront and were given ad lib with the first encounter, the problems mounted, and the elongation of the cure became apparent in 1980s, 1990s. So I started saying then cure probably within 3 to 5 years. I'm seeing patients from all over the world. The numbers have increased in an immense fashion. And there are true people who are still having some symptoms, still red at the 6th year, some in the 7th year, but they're functioning very, very well, but they don't get that appellation cure pinned on them by me until they're totally cured. But they're almost there. They're 97% better. But I still stand by my word cure. So a little longer, but the vast majority are 3 to 5 years.
Okay, so I've known you for 5 years. We're at the end of our 7th video, and I'm hearing for the first time that the strength of the steroids that are being applied and these newer steroids has an effect on the duration of the addiction. That is a new piece of information I have not heard before.
There's so many comments and anecdotes that I have stored up in my head that I probably missed some things. So what I've done often in person with the patients, it's weak strength, stronger. This is how severe it's going to be, how long it's going to take. Stronger strength steroids. A shot of Kenalog every once in a while. Oral prednisone every once in a while. 5 years. 17 years. 40 years of usage. This is why it takes so long. And look at all the gradations on the way up there. So people fit in here somewhere. And the glass is full, and it takes a very long period of time. Still, for people to hang their hat on a time framework it's somewhere between 3 to 5 years. That's an immense amount of time to suffer on a daily basis. What disease do you know that lasts that long? No, it's a cure. You got diabetes, you're on insulin or metformin the rest of your life. You got a chronic pulmonary problem, you're on, drugged for the rest of your life. All the neurological things, you're on the rest of your life. This is cured, but it takes 3 to 5 years.
So a little bit of a philosophical question. How do you describe to a person how they're going to feel when they're done, when they don't know what that is? It's been so long they don't know what normal is. What comes out of your mouth?
If in person or Zoom or with a film, the tears come out of them. They cry. Their passion shows they're so happy. A different world, a different life. They've never experienced this wonderful existence in years. They can't believe it. Oh, it's worth everything, every moment I spend with them to see that happen. And they never go backwards. That's it. They're going to be like this the rest of their life. Perfectly cured.
That's a perfect place to end this one. Please like, share, and subscribe. Send to your loved ones. Send to people that are going through this. Post links to these videos on some of the other topical steroid withdrawal channels that you're seeing. And we'll be back for episode number 8.
Good. I'm looking forward to it. John, you are the absolute best interviewer. I look forward to our talks, and I hope that the rest of the world will be cured soon.
Wonderful.